This is the Analysing Anfield podcast on the Blood Red channel, bringing you the best tactical and statistical analysis of Liverpool FC.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of Analysing Anfield. I'm Williams, I'm joined by David Hughes, still pushing on mate, still going.
Yeah mate, still surviving, you know, the apocalypse that we're in. I'm alright. I'm actually quite warm because I'm getting burnt by the sun, but I mean we could be complaining if it was raining, wouldn't we? So
yeah, I'm going down the like a Tuzo up, I think. A Tuzo Frank Rijkaard or something like that going on.
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at my hair today and was like, this is the longest it's been in a while, and it's not going to cut anytime soon. So it'll be an interesting progression over the next few weeks.
The other day I had my first moment where I was like, no, this is too long. This, because it looked like I'd put a helmet on. Rather.
Would you be tempted to get a skinhead?
Not a skinhead, but I'm tempted to
Get the clippers out.
Let my sister do my sides or something like that, just to try and get the bowl head going away.
Yeah, see how it goes.
Anyway, back to the football. So we said last week that we were going to go down the route of a rewatchables match this week, before doing more of the pools next week. But we've switched it up a bit. So we're going to continue with the recruitment theme from last week because it seemed to go down quite well. So last week we did, for those that didn't tune in, it was an episode on if you were creating Liverpool's 11, Liverpool's primary 11, the way it works and stuff like that. But as though Liverpool's current 11 didn't exist almost. So not necessarily replacements, but finding another Firmino, another Salah, another Mane. The only problem was I felt as though certainly me personally, I've talked about that quite a lot. So I feel as though every name I came out with, people already know. So I enjoyed doing this field one. I don't know about you. I enjoyed doing it a little bit more because hopefully I'll be able to come out with some names that, you know, you haven't heard me say every other week on the show.
Yeah, I thought this week's was a little bit more difficult actually, because I think Liverpool's tactics play a huge part in their midfield. So this was kind of, it wasn't always easy to find a like for like as such. Not that it was easy last week with the front three, but yeah, I thought a little bit more difficult this week. But we'll see what happens. Again, we probably point out that me and you haven't spoke before this, have we? About who we've picked.
No, we haven't spoke beforehand, so I've got no idea who Dave's picked. And the idea this week is, say for example, Fabinho. Find another Fabinho who can come in immediately and basically do as close to what Fabinho does as possible without Liverpool's start dropping off. So we'll start with Wijnaldum, I think. Arguably one of the oddest in Liverpool's team. I think we've heard to him before in past episodes as Ditto from Pokemon. Just because of how versatile he is and how adaptable he is. But yeah, the only criteria, the only restraint that I put in was that he has to be under the 26. So I'll let you start, Dave.
Yeah, so I picked a player to start us off that most people watching or listening will know, and it's Mateo Kovacic at Chelsea. Obviously he's 25, so just makes the bracket, so to speak. But yeah, you know, he's a central midfielder who operates mainly as part of a three, similar to Liverpool. He's right-footed like Wijnaldum is, except he plays on the left like Wijnaldum. But yeah, you know, he's really good on the ball. Strong in defensive duels. Really comfortable in tight areas. Tends to dribble out of danger quite well. You know, these are all kind of characteristics that you would associate with Wijnaldum. Yeah, I just think he's a really good player. He's been really good for Chelsea this year. Every time I've watched him live, he's been Chelsea's best player. And I think he's the type of player that you could kind of drop into that Liverpool 11 in that position, and he'd be able to replicate a lot of things that Gini does so well.
Yeah, very much agree with that one. I was a piece on the week actually. I think whenever I think of Kovacic, I always think of press resistance immediately. Just because he's not the type that you can pressurise into a mistake. He can get himself out of tricky situations, and I think he dribbles more often than the average midfielder as well. It's not usually a common trait, that. So my first option, I went down the route of, I had a little look back at my piece from a few months ago for Liverpool.com. I tried to find similar players to Wijnaldum on the day. First of all, I just went the basics of what a Wijnaldum is. So, versatile, very reliable, dribble, mobile, tactically good, never loses the ball, and doesn't take many risks in possession. So that was my kind of, Wijnaldum criteria, if you like. So my first option, Dennis Zakaria, 23 years old, from Borussia Mönchengladbach. Apparently Liverpool have supposedly trying to sign him in the past.
Oh, really?
I read I read a piece the other week from, I think it was Honigstein on the Athletic, and he just dropped a note in there that Liverpool tried to sign him a number of years ago before he moved to Germany. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we did. 6'3" years, big physical, imposing player. Swiss, and his defensive dual success rate in terms of how efficiently he wins the ball. I think I looked at Europe's top 5 leagues, minimum 1,500 minutes, central midfield. I can't remember if I put an age limit in there, but regardless, he was the top success rate. I think he wins something like 70% of his duels. I think Wijnaldum's on about 68, 69 or something like that. Contract until 2022, which is decent. But the only issue is that I do think he'd cost a fair bit if he wants them. Quite an all-round midfielder, like, as I said, big physical presence in the centre of the park. And I think he'd be able to perform the kind of like the balancer type role that Wijnaldum executes every week.
Yeah, no, good shout. Let me just load up my shit here. Yeah, so this of all the names I mentioned today, or on the show, this was the one my toes curl a little bit, but if a bit of context, hopefully people might try and understand. I've gone with quite a surprise choice in Frenkie de Jong.
Okay.
Now, the reason I say about the toes curling part is because everybody in Europe knows about him. He had a huge, obviously, summer transfer from Ajax to Barcelona. And he's probably more associated with a more deep line role, maybe like a more Fabinho role. But, we actually look at him this year for Barcelona. He's been used, across all the midfield three. They've had 2 different managers in there. It's been a bit wild. And, I just think he's a lot more, if we talk about like defensive aspects of his game initially, he's a lot more imposing than I think people realise. If we do compare them to Wijnaldum, I think he's averaging 3.86 duels per 90 with a success rate of around 62%. Gini's averaging a little bit more at 4.1 and 66% success rate, but the differences aren't that huge. I think we talked about this earlier. I think if you're talking about press resistance, he's the best. He's the best at it. He's great with the ball at his feet. I think he glides across the pitch effortlessly, and I think he is a surprise candidate for kind of playing that role and doing it really well. And I think this season he's actually played more minutes in like a Wijnaldum role than he has in more like a Fabinho role. Can you remember how much he was bought for in the summer? I know it was over 100 million. Or was it?
No, I think it was about 72 or something like that, wasn't it? Or 92 maybe, something like that. Yeah,
but it seems Deco and Coutinho moved there a little bit, where for whatever reason, obviously they've had a bit of a tough campaign, Barcelona, in many ways, but it feels like he hasn't really been the success that they'd hoped. I don't know if maybe there'd be a potential to cash in maybe next year. It's hard to really guess from this point, but yeah, I think he's a surprise candidate, but good reason to maybe have that comparison.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame for me that he went to such a possession-based team, because obviously you would associate Ajax with possession, obviously, but he really seemed to thrive in the Champions League when Ajax benefited a lot from being able to play in transition against Real Madrid and Juventus, and they beat another big team as well, didn't they? Or they thrived against Spurs at least until they ended up getting beat. But he really seemed to thrive when the match was quite loose and the ball was quite fumbling all over the place and stuff like that. But now that Barcelona dominate like 70% of the ball every week, he's kind of having to play within himself, I think.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, the point you make there about the transition game is spot on. Like that's definitely somewhere where he thrives, and maybe that's part of the reason why he's struggling a little bit, or not struggling, but maybe just not hitting the heights people were hoping.
Yeah. My player, I was a little bit reluctant to put him in simply because, I mean, it's a little bit judgmental, I suppose, but purely because I've read one or two things about his character, as his contractual demands and stuff like that. But Adrian Rabiot, so 25 years old, 6'2", so another physically imposing player, and I'm pretty sure he's talked up Liverpool and Anfield in the media in the past, recently since Klopp's kind of like turned him into a force. Currently at Juventus, and they actually got him for free. Technical player, very strong. Yeah, he was for free in 2020 in last year, I think. Contract until 2023. But I think the way Juventus do things, the way they acted with Emre Can, for example, they just sold him for after getting him free. I think they would do the same with Rabiot. I don't think he's really hit the ground running with on the side. Might be wrong in saying that, but
Is he playing much, Josh?
I have to check that one. Last time I checked, I don't think he was.
I know a few clubs in foreign Premier League wise, weren't they? And obviously,
I'll have a look now.
Juventus. But go on, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to check now. But yeah, I just felt he was an applicable player because he's quite progressive on the ball, but he doesn't lose it very often. I think he's quite efficient without the ball. So this season, yeah, in Serie A, only 1,100 minutes. I think Paul, at a regular starter, I think it's on over 2,000 now. So yeah, and before we move on to the next midfielder, I do want to just add one special mention to a player that I wasn't willing to put in there because I think his potential for a move is past. But Idrissa Gueye.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of his, and I think he showed up alongside Zakaria and Wijnaldum when I did this piece for Liverpool.com a few weeks ago as one of the most efficient A, users of the ball, and B, regainers of the ball. So I think he'd be really good at being Liverpool's Wijnaldum, but I doubt it's doable anymore. I think he's like 29 or something, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a shame that it took the move to PSG for people to kind of take him serious, because people who watched Everton a lot will confirm he's an elite player. Like, if in his role, in his position, he is elite. There's very few in the world who are better. But obviously, when you're playing at Everton, where a Premier League club trying to break into the top six, not quite there, it's hard to kind of take these players as serious as being as good as they are. But now people have seen him go to PSG, kind of translate those abilities into competitions like the Champions League. Yeah, these are phenomenal. It's just a little bit of a shame that he wasn't maybe 4 years younger.
Yeah, I think there was a question on Twitter a few months ago, and it was who you think is the best Premier player in the last decade hasn't played for the top six club. And I think my answer was, I actually said two Everton players. I said Leighton Baines and Idrissa Gueye. Just think they were two players that could have comfortably moved into arguably a title winning side, and they wouldn't have really looked out of me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, definitely.
So next, anyway, we'll move on to Fabinho. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with a bit of a controversial one here. I'd say Fred at United. So I appreciate Fred often plays more than I suppose like a double pivot. And he was a bit of a laughing stock last year, wasn't he? But if you watch him a lot, like we have this season. And if you look at his numbers, he's been very impressive in all aspects of the game, really. Thankfully, it feels like recently it's become common knowledge that you don't really measure the player's quality by, looking at things like how many defensive duels they make per 90. But what I will say is that kind of stuff can still work in your favour with context. You can still utilise it to try and get a gauge of a player's ability. And I thought it was interesting that he's got the second highest number of defensive duels per 90 in the Premier League this season for, I think it was Premier League midfielders who've played 800 plus minutes. And top was a Norwich player. So I think it was Tom
Tybal,
yeah. But obviously he's most likely in there. He might be a good player, but he's most likely in there because Norwich are involved in a lot more, defensive aspects of the game. Whereas United, a top side, who'd probably see fewer defensive moments on the whole. So I think for him to be so high is probably a bit more of a justification for his abilities rather than it being like something to do with the team he's playing for. But he just, he passes the ball well. He's become a real kind of calm and composed ball passer. I think he presses well in the middle. I think he could do that role on own if United eventually goes to like a 4-3-3. I think he could be the Fabinho in that side, and I think he's getting to the position now where he could probably sit in a Fabinho type role in this Liverpool team and be able to perform at a similar level. I don't know if you agree or not, but
no, I think he did that at Shakhtar before moving to the Premier League. I think he was Shakhtar's number 6 under. I always forget his name.
Was it Fonseca? Was it
Fonseca? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And he was quite a progressive player. He was good at those kind of like vertical passes to a player's feet, and like the number 10 can then turn or whatever. So yeah, not a bad shout that. So for me, Wilfred and Ndidi. I'm a huge fan of this kid, and when I say that, I'm mainly, 80% without the ball, because he's such a adequate replacement to Kante. They got it so right when they replaced Kante with him. He's one of the best bundles in the Premier League. Does an absolute load for Maddison and Tielemans. By the way, I haven't went through my Fabinho criteria yet, so I'll go back a step. Hang on a sec. So I went for disciplined, aggressive, composed, solid contribution, both with and without the ball. And a big factor I wanted to put in there was tall. I think it's important for Liverpool's number 6, the type of game playing and stuff, to be a tall, aerially dominant figure, if possible. Hence why Fabinho, I think, was selected.
You killed my Fred shout there, Josh.
Yeah, I suppose I have, yeah. 5'2" or something.
It's alright. I'm glad I got him in there before the criteria show.
But yeah, indeed, he's 5'11", so I'd say he ticks that box. I think I've just said he's only 23 years old, but I've said that. Premier League experience, obviously, would probably cost a lot if we was to buy him. Contracted until 2024. And I'll be honest, he doesn't offer that much on the ball. But he's cool enough to play in a dominant possession-based team. It's just not the biggest risk taker. He's not uncomfortable and like that. He's just not the most daring. So it's kind of like, I'll do my thing. I'll let you go and play, basically. I think what you mentioned there in terms of midfielders, Premier League midfielders, defensive dual success rate and stuff like that. You mentioned that Tybal was there. Fred was there. I'm pretty sure Ndidi will have been.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. He's right up there for defensive activity, and I think he's top for interceptions.
Just on the point I was making in relation to Fred, I think that if you look at these things with context, you'd say Ndidi is there more due to his abilities rather than as a consequence of playing for a side situated near the bottom of the table where they'll be involved in a lot more defensive actions. So I think it's a positive about Ndidi game. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's top for interceptions per 90, and he's certainly up there for ball recoveries. Can't specifically remember the exact number. Fabinho also post in that regard. So I think Ndidi's, I find it mad that he's still only 23. I feel like he's been around for quite a while now in England. But he's a player that I think it'd be really appropriate. Like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Ndidi. I think they got that right. The next player, now the criteria, it was my criteria that I've kind of looked at was players who were kind of posting similar averages in terms of passes, success rate in the same defensive duel success rates, just the things you'd associate with his game. And this player's would be considered a bit more of a risk because it's still early into his European career. But I think there's a reason why he was being touted for a big move from South America originally. And this is Bruno Guimaraes, who just recently signed for Lyon.
Okay.
He's actually a national teammate of Fabinho, which is quite funny. But yeah, I've wrote about him a couple of times, and he's got really good passing quality. He doesn't take too many chances. He's a good ball carrier when required, although he is quite disciplined. He's really aggressive in closing players down when without the ball, which is quite important because Lyon tend to press fairly aggressive as a side. So benefit that dropped him in and he can do it. Now, he's only played a few games for Lyon because he only joined in January coming over from Brazil, and I think he was involved in some sort of Brazil national team qualification at the end of January. I can't remember what it was called, but there was definitely something going on. So he hasn't played a ton, but when he has played, he's looked really good on that side. Sometimes it will be a midfield two that he's playing in, so it's difficult to gauge how he'd succeed in on just like on his own as a kind of firefighter, I guess. But he's got all the credentials as well. I think it's interesting to see him and Fabinho over the next couple of years kind of fight for the positions in the national team, playing similar roles. I think he's going to go on to be a good player, and he could potentially, play at a club like Liverpool.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. My second one was also going to be a Lyon midfielder until I realised that he's already agreed a deal to move in the summer. So I went down a different route. Initially, it was Toussaint.
Oh yeah.
22, strong in the tackle, 6'1", sorry. And he seemed to tick all the boxes until I realised he was moving, so I just thought there was no point then. So I had to find an alternative. And I went down the Salah route in terms of a player that many will consider to be a Premier League failure. But for me, he didn't fail, his team failed. So Andre, Frank, Zambo and Keita. You hear him?
No. I'm go on. No, seriously, I don't know who it is.
He was signed by Fulham last summer. Being from Raid, where he signed about 4,000 players.
I spent over 100 million.
Yeah, but he was one of them, and he was very, very clearly a data sign. Those players that go up in the data and you go and have at them.
Yeah,
he was one of them because he was posting lots of output, particularly defensively. But Fulham obviously had a mess of a season, brought too many players in, didn't have the surrounds to basically integrate them all seamlessly. They ended up really being a team. And when they went down, he left in the summer on loan to Villarreal.
Yeah, just having a look now.
Yeah, I think they've got an option to buy, but I think I've read somewhere something like they can't really afford to do it or something like that. But he's 6 foot, only 24. He's really good without the ball and quite skillful as well on it. But I remember last when Fulham had quite a bad year, that a team like Spurs maybe under Pochettino when they hadn't signed Ndombele yet, they hadn't signed Lo Celso. I remember saying Zambo and Keita could be a steal there. For a couple
I don't even remember. I genuinely don't remember them. That's quite bad of me. That
if you look at his numbers, particularly before he moved to England, he was posting ridiculous interceptions and stuff like that. And when you actually watch him play, he's good ball as well. He's big, athletic and stuff like that. So for me, he's better than his current level. He's better than Fulham, better than Villarreal. And in terms of putting him in Liverpool as a 6, that's one downside. Actually, he's used to playing as a 2. So he'd have to do what Fabinho did in terms of learning the soul, the lone role on his own. But I think that kind of like efficient role, like, you know, regaining the ball and giving it to the more creative talents while occasionally having a little bit of skill on it, sort of thing. I think he'd be able to do that quite well. So he was just kind of, I suppose you would say, a little bit of a wild card that's in there, but yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So, Jordan Henderson then, unless you've got anything to add.
No, I haven't. No, at all. Just, I'm just wondering, with you saying all this, if we're going to maybe have a bit of a move in the next year or two, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson. So, I don't know about you, I found this one a little bit tricky.
I did, yeah. And I'm not sure many people will with my 2 selections, actually.
Go on, let you start.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the criteria I was looking at. So, yeah, there was the obvious focus on things like passing and passing success rates, where he comes out in terms of defensive duels and stuff, but also just general defensive actions, because I think it's a little bit hard to try and capture things that Henderson does in the data alone. No, he's a very good pressing midfielder, isn't he? But we haven't really got the best access to the data to capture that, I suppose. So one player I've gone with, though, that I think could raise a few eyebrows, but I do like him, and although hopefully it'll irritate our producer, who's an Arsenal fan, but I've gone with Mateo Guendouzi.
He was floating around my to him, but I didn't know with him, but I did spot him.
Yeah, I just think he's a player who can play so many different positions, which is probably as a result of playing under Emery and being kind of dragged from pillar to post. But now I think he's probably best kind of occupying, like, you know, the length of the half space, you know, and which is kind of that number 8 role that you see at Liverpool. You know, he tends to drop.
I think there's been a bit of conflict with Arteta as well. I think I've read.
Well, funny enough, this is what I flagged, because for a while I've said, why is he not playing? Because I think he's a really good player. He shows up really well in the data. And I was like, is it something that people are going to see him when they watch him week in, week out? Which, admitted, you know, we don't. But from speaking to Arsenal fans, it does seem that there's been a clash, and that's why he's not playing as much. Which, you know, could be.
He seems quite passionate, but sometimes that can spill over.
Yeah.
Like,
then he's young, isn't he? So,
yeah.
Steven
Gerrard was similar.
Yeah. And but you know what, Josh? It's easy to forget. He's only 20. You know, he feels a little bit older than that. 20 is like nothing. But yeah, I think he, you know, if we're talking about numbers, focusing on numbers, he sees a little bit less of the ball than Henderson. He averaged around 55 passes in 90. I think Henderson's like the late 60s, but they have a similar pass success rate. You know, he doesn't tend to try too much in terms of risky passes that kind of, you know, result in possession being given to the opposition. He doesn't attempt as many. I think this is important to point out. He doesn't attempt as many of those kind of up and over long balls, which I think is kind of something that's really important to Henderson's game for Liverpool. You know, the way you see him drop it in like the right back position and kind of putting these diagonal balls over the top. I think that's something that you'd miss when Henderson wasn't there. But I think on the whole, he's the type of player who's got all the characteristics that Henderson has, and certainly could go on to progress to be a really good player. And, you know, you think of the Oxlade-Chamberlain transfer when he left Arsenal to Liverpool. I don't think Arsenal felt like losers in that situation. But he's gone on to be quite a good player, even if it didn't work out with them. And I just wonder if maybe it could be a similar situation with Guendouzi.
Yeah. No, as I said, he was floating about mine, but I don't know. I'm not particularly. Maybe I didn't pick him because he doesn't feel as disciplined as Henderson. I think that's why Henderson's best rates. Yeah, decent shout, especially considering he was very recently a teenager. I think that's crazy. My first pick is a lad who I don't really get why he talked about more and why he's linked with moves more. And that's not me saying because he should. That's me genuinely, I don't get it. So, Weston McKennie, he's a man, 21 years old, 6'1", so another physically built player. And he's very mobile, very energetic. He's captain his country as well, I think, despite only being 21 years old.
I did
very big. Yeah, I think he has only once or twice. Like very versatile. Yeah, I know. Very versatile to the extent that if he was Liverpool's head, he'd need probably later positional discipline. He's maybe a bit much of a free spirit to be Henderson right now. Contract until 2024 as well, so he's not going anywhere soon. Like he's a player that I never ever see linked with anyone, and I don't really know why. Because I think if he was in England, playing every week for a top half team, American 21-year-old who's quite an all-rounder. I just don't get why he's not talked about more. Big physical 6-foot player, midfielder. I don't get why he's not talked about. And he fits my Henderson criteria, which was just basically, industrious, energy, lots of stamina, physically really good, physically built, hungry, that sort of stuff. Because I think one of Henderson's biggest qualities is his intensity, really. And I think lots of his intensity comes from his physical and his mental traits. Weston McKennie was my first. I don't really get why he's not. I never heard his name anywhere.
It's funny that he plays with a scout set to his right now, doesn't he? Obviously not to Alexander-Arnold's level, but he has John Joe Kenny there on loan from Everton. So it's interesting that.
And he's got David Wagner behind him as well.
I haven't really been keeping an eye on how Schalke have been doing this season. Let's have a look.
I think they were doing okay. I'm not sure if they still are. I think earlier in the season he was doing okay. Like
top 6. So doing all right. Interesting. So they've been on for Europe, depending. So I've gone with Rodrigo Benteke at Juventus. Is that an approval, is it?
Yeah, he was in and around as well, but I opted against him in the end.
But obviously really versatile in midfield. But Juventus play. See, the thing with Juventus, they don't tend to stick to the same formation week in, week out the way Liverpool do, but they do often play a 4-3-3, and when they do, he's usually on the 3. If we're talking about being imposing and size, he's 6'2". He performs slightly more defensive actions actually on the whole per 90 than Henderson. Almost identical success rate in defensive duels, but he's a really good accurate passer of the ball. Doesn't take a ton of risks, which is important in Liverpool's midfield, because we know the kind of flair comes from other areas of the pitch. He's another doesn't take as many of those long passes, but I think a lot of that's quite tactical. But he just seems to possess a lot of the same qualities that Henderson has, albeit in a different league. And I think he could be a player that could step into Henderson's shoes and do the job well. Still just 22, so he's got plenty of years ahead of him, probably his best years as well. Could be a good alternative if it ever comes to it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with my next one. I've kind of cheated a bit, because he is 26. He's not on, so I suppose it's not really allowed. But he applies to such an extent that I felt like I had to include him. Thomas Partey.
You know what? Right? Yeah, I just say something quickly. I had him down, and I was like, he's 26.
Yeah.
But no, I get it, because he was so, and I thought he would have been really relevant to flag. I'm glad you'll have, in the sense that Liverpool played Atletico and he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was everywhere, wasn't he? He didn't seem phased. Again, fits the mould of a big, physical, athletic, imposing player in the middle of the park. But he's mobile as well mobile enough at least. Predominantly plays on the right, although he tends to switch around a little bit, mostly in a pairing rather than a trio. But still, don't think he had any trouble acclimatising. Very much an all-round player for me. It doesn't have many weaknesses at all. 6 foot tall. Yeah, I can't really good in the air and stuff like that. Can't really stress that this player doesn't really have many weaknesses you can actually get at. I think one area that I did struggle to find regarding Henderson in McKennie and Thomas Partey is, you just mentioned long passes, tendency to spread a ball over the top or something like that. But I don't know, maybe as you say, that could be a tactical thing. That's something that Thomas, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really do. But I think he's probably better in small space than Henderson is. Probably better with his feet, a little bit more of a dribble and stuff like that. But yeah, 26-year-old, but I felt I had to include him.
Yeah, no, that's a really good shout. Makes sense. As I said, I had him on, took him off because of his age, but I'm glad he's had a shout out. He wanted to.
One more player as well. Another Idrissa Gueye type thing where I want to mention for a player that I didn't include, and the reason I didn't include him is because he signed a new deal a month ago. So, but I wanted to find a player. I was thinking, who's out there who's an absolute engine in terms of just relentless harrying, doesn't stop, stamina for weeks, but can play. And Alexander Golovin came to mind.
Golovin.
Yeah, AS Monaco. He's after the World Cup, didn't he? But he's a player that just ticks the box of just like a completely relentless runner, basically.
Yeah, like a never-ending engine type thing.
Yeah, that stamina, that work sort of thing that Liverpool's midfield is associated with. I think he'd offer that while also having a bit of quality on the ball as well going forward. Late runs and that sort of stuff. So,
Josh, how long's he been with Monaco now?
When was the
not like I'm not putting you on the spot, just roughly.
Wait, hang on. The Russia World Cup was
2018.
I'm not really sure when it was.
I'm just because I'm surprised he stuck around, because obviously that was a little. They've been a mess, haven't they, Monaco, for like the last 2 years.
Yeah, and at the time of moving there, he was strongly linked with Chelsea as well.
Interesting. Yeah, a really good shout though.
So for the final two, we've opted against including Milner, but I think it was important to do Liverpool's two kind of alternatives to the usual industrious midfield, if you like, and those two alternatives are Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita. So rather than continuing in the way we've done so far, Dave took Chamberlain and I took Keita. So go on, Dave. How many replacements have you? How many backups have you got for him?
So I've just done the one, but there's two. I've kind of similar, I suppose, to the theme that we've been doing, where you just want to give it an honourable mention to, I guess. But I'll start with my choice. So I've gone with Oscar Rodriguez. Who's technically a Real Madrid player, 21, but he's been on loan at it's Leganés, isn't it? In the Liga. Yeah, I sometimes I get that pronunciation wrong, but yeah, he's been loaned with them this season. He's looked really good. With Ox, I've focused on kind of the obvious things that you associate with him. So I've looked at things like his dribble paying 90, progressive runs paying 90, because obviously he's the type of player that you, when he's in there, you expect more of that, almost exploding out of the midfield and driving the ball forward. More of a, I don't know, I guess a wall carry between the midfield and the attack. So they're things, just those characteristics that you'd associate with that. I've tried to associate when looking for players. And, if we look at Rodriguez, he's averaging 0.33 goals per 90 this season, which is very similar to Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's averaging over 5 dribbles per 90 with a success rate of over 50%, which I think is pretty good for the central midfielder. Better than Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's making more progressive runs per 90 as well, and he's averaging 2.3 shots per 90, which it says he's shooting a lot and probably not the best of animals. But Oxlade-Chamberlain, that's part of his game as well. You know, he's the type of player within the midfield who will take on a few more, a few more shots from outside the box. I think he averages around 2.5, Oxlade-Chamberlain. So, yeah, I think he could be a really interesting player and maybe even a realistic target as well, because it looks like he's going to struggle to become a Real Madrid regular when he eventually returns. I saw a few clubs like Sociedad were trying to inquire about maybe making a move. So, yeah, he could be an option.
Yeah, I'm not so aware of him, to be honest. Doesn't really ring a bell.
He hadn't played a lot. He hasn't played it. I don't think he's actually made his debut for it. He come through the academy. But as I said, he's gone out to Leganés and being, a really good player. So
I will say that
maybe
one round in midfield that did take me fancy for the Henderson role, but I ended up going against him because I don't think they'll sell him. Is that Freddy Valverde? Really big runner. Big engine and that sort of stuff. But just thought, Real Madrid will be interested in keeping it around now, I think.
I know Real Madrid in a little bit of transition, but I could imagine them to be quite a good side again in the next couple of years. They seem to have some good young talent.
Yeah, they're planning ahead, aren't they?
Yeah.
Where that became general criteria, I just thought, he's an industrious player, so he fits Klopp's kind of mould, but he's also creative, unpredictable, dynamic, technically very good, offensive minded. That's so different to the current Liverpool midfielder, I suppose. I'm going to go in there straight away and say that the player I would have went for this 6 months ago would be Bruno Fernandes, fully enough. But he's probably unlikely to move at the minute. Manchester United, isn't he? I think Liverpool definitely liked him as a player. In fact, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think we did ask about his price, and I think that's what put off, understandably so, because I think it was in and around 65 million. But that's Liverpool aren't going to pay that. But if we didn't have a Naby Keita, if Naby Keita didn't exist, and Liverpool wanted that kind of squad tool who can in midfield provide score and provide passation, I think Bruno would have been a man. So I've went down the route of Hossein Ouar. I think I've said that right. Leon. You heard of him, Deja?
Hossein Ouar.
Ouar.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
God knows how you pronounce that. Aouar. 21 years old. Played the majority of the season in central midfield. Only 5'9", but it doesn't really matter with this type of role. This isn't one of the physical Liverpool midfielders. This isn't either. So
Keita's about that, isn't it, Josh?
I think 5'10", maybe Keita. Actually that, yeah. He carries the ball dynamically like Keita does. I think they both average around 3 progressives per 90 this season. He dribbles equally as in fact, I think he dribbles more often. Less than 1 shot assisted per 90 in League One this season, but I think he's really talented. He's clearly the type of player that could play in your midfield and offer a bit more of a creative spark than the likes of Wijnaldum and Henderson and Fabinho and that sort of thing.
Is he French, Josh? Yeah.
I googled that actually, and it's kind of like the French Algerian crossover. Which country presents something that's from.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, I'm just having a look now, and he's he's represented them at under 21 level, so I assume that's going to be the route he goes down. So,
and I threw one other alternative in there. Just I suppose I had like 1.5 players for this one. another player who in England the perception will probably be he's failed. And the perception of Paul, to be honest, probably be that's failed, but he's still only 22. Renato Sanchez, next big thing at the time. Benfica.
Swansea, great.
Yeah, he moved to Bayern Munich after some Euros, I think, and he was deemed as the next big thing. But he's very similar to Keita, I think, in terms of that really modern profile, in terms of good with and without the ball, really skillful. He's like a number 10, but he's not. I don't know. He's got that kind of completeness to his game, athletic and stuff like that. And he's now currently at Lille. They signed him permanently, I think, for about like 20 million, something like that. But I think I maybe wouldn't be suggesting him, but purely because of Klopp and what Klopp can do to players, how he can kind of empower them and inspire them. I think if Renato Sanchez can reach his ceiling, it is a high ceiling. He's still 22.
I didn't know he was that young still. It feels like he's been around for ages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I suppose he has, but I think he finds the penalty box quite frequently as well, with passes more frequently than. Sorry, not the penalty box. I think he assists shots more frequently than Noah does, and I think around the same as Keita. But I just thought he was a relevant player to throw in there, considering. I don't know. I just don't like when sometimes if a player has a rocky period in England, the immediate perception is he's failed. But look at De Bruyne, look at Salah, look at Sanchez. Suppose Zambo and Geese is another example from before. There's plenty of these players who just need a better environment, basically.
Yeah, especially when they're young. It's hard to be the finished deal at 18, 19, isn't it? You're still well into your development. That's why I said, if you said to me before saying how old do you think he was, I would have said 24, 25 now. So it just shows. I didn't realise he was that young.
Yeah, I think it's typical Lille business, to be honest, isn't it? Can't remember the name of the sound director over there, but Mourinho interested in Spurs, and I think he's really good at getting an undervalued player in before eventually selling them for a profit. And I think Renato Sanchez will be one of those. So before we end, who did you think was the trickiest?
Of the three, of all of them. I don't know. I thought Wijnaldum was a little bit difficult, actually. Beyond Kovacic, I couldn't think of an obvious candidate.
I think for me, I found it difficult to replace. Well, we were all, don't get me wrong, unique types and stuff like that. But I think Henderson, because of how much comes into his game mentally, leadership wise, and that sort of stuff, that's difficult to find. That get players out there that are proper, just true to heart leaders, just naturally. I think it's a bit of an age-old "this is England" sort of quote. He does it often more than just what you see on the pitch. I think he's massive.
Yeah, well, we did. Remember, we talked about him not so long ago, and one of the things that I remember that was trying to really hammer in was that he kind of characteristics that aren't really quantifiable. I think his skill set could have quite easily seen him playing at maybe just a top 8 level, but I think everything else that he brings to his game, in terms of his leadership skills and stuff, that's kind of made him or bestowed him the ability to progress with this Liverpool side. Because don't forget, he was still playing for 6 or 7 years when Liverpool were near the side they were a top 7 side, and it's a testament to what he possesses to be able to have progressed without being cut in previous regime, or Klopp coming in, deemed him not suitable. Klopp's come in and not only deemed him suitable, but kept him as a captain. Yeah,
nice, spot on. So listen, anyway, thanks for joining us, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, and cheers to everyone else as well, of course, for listening still.
Thanks for keeping the faith. Thanks for staying tuned. Hopefully we're helping get you all through the self-isolation period that we're going through at the minute. Hopefully we will be back next week, and thanks for tuning in.